Greetings and welcome into the Sports Shuffle. I am Flying Ryan Gilchrist along with.
Tampa Motormouth, Joel Vernon, learning that if you want to have an intro song, it's probably good not to do one for almost 3 minutes.
Yeah, Joel trying to play Stairway to Heaven before every show, it seems like. Good song, interesting song. But yeah, 3 minutes to intro show. We'll figure something out, I guess. But not going to be 3 minutes. It's going to be maybe like 20, 25, 30
You,
seconds.
you,
We'll figure it out.
you, you
We're
know,
playing with AI. It's
you,
fun.
you know how I get that. I just tend to get focused and just target focused on one thing. It's like okay, put it down, let it go on to something else.
Joel, your intros are motor mouthing. Anyways, eventually we'll have one that is appropriate for an intro more than a
We,
rock
we,
ballad.
so it's probably
Cliche.
not good to do like a bye Miss American Pie length song. Probably
Yeah, no.
it's like what 15, 20. Like, oh my good God, what is the song going to end? Or the diner song, right?
Yeah, but you don't
Another
actually get to the
novel
actual
of the
rest of the song.
song.
Yeah. Anyways, hopefully no tech problems. I'm already lagging on my end, but that may or may not be a problem later. Joel's got some powerless rankings to go over. We're going to talk about what's coming up with Wild Card Weekend, the fired head coaches from this week, and get ready for the playoffs. Before we do that, we are done with the regular season. The current pick'em standings, Joel, after a 9-win week in Week 18, when we were picking on backups, hopes, dreams, and prayers. 9-7 for Joel. I was I finished the season with a record
Man,
of 178, 93 and 1. Joel 170, 101 and 1. So not terrible. Not going to get to 200, but could have a respectable 190 plus win if you go really well in the playoffs for me, and Joel probably in the low 180s. But this is when the picks get a little more tough because everybody's pretty comparable. And this year it seems like it's just absolutely wide open. So before we do that,
yeah,
let's
because it's
do.
week 18.
I'll go ahead with the week 18. There's a little bit of lag between us right now.
Yeah, just with a week 18, it was just you basically had two, maybe arguably three games that meant really anything. So it really doesn't make sense to go over each and every one, especially when you had one game when you had Clayton Tune as the quarterback.
And his -7 net passing yards.
And then JJ McCarthy, who was back, then had to leave, and Brosmer cometh in
Yeah, he came
again.
back. And for the Vikings, it was another win. They do finish 9-8. And the Lions, every team in that division was above 500, but Lions finishing fourth place is crazy. Let's start with the powerless rankings, Joel. Let me bring it
Lions got
up
a
and
win. Got
we
a
did.
win.
Let's adjust our screens accordingly, and then when that is done, I can come on, move you turd. Technology is fun. There we go. Okay, we wanted that on the big one. And then I'm going to hit the slideshow. And Joel, you're going to go crazy. If it will do what I
And
want it to
starting
do.
off, do 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 do. Did that help?
I mean, hey, we got it on the screen, I think. Like I said, I can't see what actually is on our stream right now.
All right. And after I give my choices, you can kind of actually I get done with everything. You can kind of agree or disagree, and then give me your powerless ranking. So I'm starting off, of course, if we're good to go.
Yeah, go for it.
Number 5, that has to be the Cleveland Browns. Hashtag factory of sadness quarterback roulette. Boy, just Dylan wasn't going to be the answer. And then finishing off the year, of course, with Shador flippin' Sanders, who he had his flashes of brilliance here and there, hither and yon, but I don't think he's going to be the answer for that franchise. And that franchise is just absolutely going to be totally, completely under the sword of Damocles forever. From the Deshaun Watson contract, that was one of the biggest mistakes in the history of the NFL. And the reason why they're fired, why are they think somebody was fired to get to when we talk about black money is because you can't fire Haslam. That's the real person I think that a lot of people want to fire in Cleveland for giving Deshaun Watson that ridiculous contract. But number 5 is Cleveland Browns. Number 4, we can go to the next slide, please.
When my
It,
computer wants to go, it just takes a minute. All right, there we go.
Number 4, that'd be, yep, the New York Giants. Brian Dable, of course, fired mid-season just because of the absolutely horrid, horrid lead chokes. A lot of talk after that. Denver won 33 freaking points that a lot of people were surprised he wasn't fired. Apparently, people in the inner sanctum did want to fire him. Cooler heads prevailed, but ultimately not for too long, as yeah, you had 4 chokes and you also just had the brutal, brutal, brutal injuries. Yeah, because you had the injuries. You had Neighbors. Then you had Cam Skadden, who all of a sudden you had the Arm and Hammer. There was the nickname. And then he got injured in the horrific fashion that he did. And then still, you have the injuries. But why did Dable get fired? Looked like he was getting dart in the right direction when he wasn't being concussed. And Jameis Winston didn't have to come in, but 4 freaking chokes, Ryan. That's why they're at number 4. There are, like Star Trek, there are 4 lights. There are 4 chokes. All right. We can go to the next slide.
All right, our change. So should be seeing you soon.
Next slide would be number 3, Tennessee. Tennessee Titans as, yeah. Anytime you think about Tennessee Titans, you think about 2025. You just think about the one quote from Cam Ward. And I'll let you say it, Ryan, because I know it's your favorite quote of the year.
We ass.
Yeah, just like Ryan's clip. That I just want to have a poster with Cam Ward on it saying, "We ass," which that describes the entire season. Brian Callahan, of course, turned over his play calling duties very early on. Wasn't enough to satisfy the bread and circuses in Tennessee. They fired him, and still won an absolutely horrid, horrid season. And just, Calvin Ridley, one of those folks in fantasy football that I will absolutely never draft again, ever. I know when he fell to me, I was looking at the other choices. I'm like, I don't know, that one with the bye week, that one underneath him doesn't really excite me. I punched draft, and I knew I should go back in time, even if it changes the fabric of space time, and tell myself, do not, under any circumstances, draft Calvin Ridley. But you're always going to remember this season with yes. All right, and if we can go to the very next slide.
That is the first team that would make my list. By the way, it's the Titans.
Yeah,
Of the other 2 you've got, I'll name what I would put there, but they would not be. But this one, the Titans, the one we're on now, and the number 1, all 3 of those would make my list.
number 2, that would be the New York Jets. Your highlights, your award banners for this year. A dancing coach. Everybody remembers Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn doing the dance. And you know what people remember? 0 interceptions. Can we say that again, Ryan? 0,
0.
0 freaking interceptions. The first time that has happened since the inception in when 19 19 freaking 33. So yeah, yeah, just the results. You remember Aaron Glenn talking about making those winning decisions, right? One of the very first press conferences. Zero interceptions, regular season. This team unmatched. And you just remember how they finished and how they went out. Patriots just absolutely flipping demolish them. Who didn't demolish them, right? I mean,
Yeah,
even my Bucks managed to get by them,
yeah, it's
and
bad.
they're bad. Trading away Sauce Gardner and the other person on defense because who needs defense, right? I mean, just ask the Bengals. You don't need defense. Do you need defense?
It's optional.
And getting to the number one for my powerless rankings, we could go to the next to final slide.
Mhm.
Number one, that would be the Las Flippin' Vegas Raiders. Oh my good God, this team. TB12, Ryan, did not help them. Pete Carroll did not help them at all. And this offense is still in the same place that they were basically in 2024 and
They were
encapsulated.
worse. They were worse than
And
25.
you think that one game. Think that one game when you're trying to pick, okay, who wins, Raiders or the other team? And the Raiders only end up getting something like 75 total flipping yards. So, like that one time when both of us picked the Raiders and you said barf. That's why, because this team is absolutely ugly. And you got to give the best award to you saw this coming to Amari Cooper, who was going to play for the Raiders. And instead of playing for the Las Vegas Raiders, he saw this dog poop of a season ahead. And instead, he retired. Amari Cooper, you won the season because you didn't have to deal with the Las Vegas Raiders, who I saw one of the stories with Geno Smith apparently scrubbed his social media of everything Las Vegas Raiders related. I don't think he wants to come back, Brian.
Yeah, he's gone for sure.
And if we could go to my honorable mentions, ah, the NFC South. The Panthers aren't there because they just got into the playoffs barely, because it could have very easily been the Bucks. We saw that crazy Saints Falcons game went. If Olave was healthy, I think the Saints might have won that, and then the Bucks could go into the first round of the playoffs and get killed by the Rams. But honorable mentions: the whole flippin' NFC South, the Bucks for having that start and then having that collapse, the Falcons for being the Falcons. You spent your draft capital on Michael Penix, and you're still stuck with Kirk Cousins. Actually, to his credit, did not do very badly. In fact, did pretty well in the last half of the season. And the Saints, they're on there just because, oh man, if you think about it, if they could have had as good first half as they did last half, they might have won the entire flippin' division this year. And those are, for the first time ever, my powerless rankings here on the Sports Shuffle.
All right, let me get things back how they normally look. For me, I don't have a fancy slideshow, but my I would not have I would not have Cleveland, and I would not have the Giants in there. At 5, I would have the Washington Commanders. I know there's a lot of injuries, but they just also lost offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury, who breaking news during the powerless rankings had hired David Blau to be the new
Didn't
offensive
they
coordinator
fire
for the
both?
Commanders.
Didn't they fire both their OC and DC?
They
The
may
Commanders.
have. I don't remember hearing about the DC because it's probably not as big of a name as Kingsbury. But David Blau is the replacement for Cliff Kingsbury. Pretty much a lost and wasted season for the Washington Commanders. Their defense was awful. Everything you hoped for on that offense got blown up. Just
Even
awful.
Marshawn Lattimore was arrested on weapons charge.
Yeah. For me, the number 4 team is actually the Titans. I liked how they looked at the end of the season. They were getting better. They're still a long way out, and they are still very much in the wee-ass
Canary
era.
Bouquet emerged. Tony Pollard
Yeah, I
was
mean,
relevant again.
Ward started looking a lot better. The defense, they won a couple games, were
Well,
more
he got
competitive in games
injured.
than they had been. So I think they're a team on the rise. I don't have the Giants in here because I just think that team, even with all those injuries, they still were competitive. They still were having good performances, even if they were coming up a little short. And then when they get healthy next year, this could be a team that's one of those surprise teams next year. For me at 3, it's going to be the Arizona Cardinals. They were abysmal and also lost to the Titans in that hysterical way in week 4. That sent some people into a tailspin. For me, number 2 is actually going to be the Raiders. And it's not a compliment because the Raiders are any better. It's just because the Jets are the Jets. They're the worst one. No interceptions. You hire a defensive-minded head coach, and you get no interceptions. You lose your last 4 games by an average of over 20 points. I'm sorry, you go into the offseason as the worst of the worst. They're not even getting the number 1 overall pick. That does go to Vegas. The Jets will be the number 2, but the Jets were just an absolute dumpster fire at the end of that year. And I think Jets fans are very happy they don't have to watch Jets football for another 8 to 9 months.
Yeah, that
was fun. All right.
That was gum.
So we're going to talk about Black Monday. I'm going to do just kind of recap what happened, who was let go, and then we'll talk about what we think about them, kind of cherry pick where we want to go. So it started on Sunday night with Raheem Morris of the Atlanta Falcons. Raheem Morris being outed. He is gone.
And Terry
Atlanta
Portnoy
Falcons.
And even Rich McKay.
Yeah, a big turnover there in Atlanta. Not a surprise, even though they're 8-9 back-to-back seasons. Not a really big surprise. Already, of course, had the Giants and Titans openings before Black Monday.
Because Daboll and Brian Callahan went bye-bye in mid-season.
So on Monday, we lost Gannon from the Cardinals and Pete Carroll from the Raiders. And
Pete Carroll.
The bigger surprise was Kevin Stefanski. I know he was on your list that you expect to be gone. I said it was going to be a mistake because we'll talk about it a little bit more, but I just didn't think it was the right move for Cleveland. Let go of Stefanski. He is gone as well, and that was Monday. We did have a few more surprises later in the week. On Tuesday, Baltimore decides to part ways with John Harbaugh in Baltimore. The guy has been there for 18 years, led him to a Super Bowl, perennial playoff team that has only been knocked out because some player drops the ball, in some cases literally. Not much a coach can do when a player doesn't execute. And then Thursday, the last of the firings so far, my Miami Dolphins let go of Mike McDaniel. He is no longer the head coach in Miami.
Daniel and his baseball bat out of the building.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of smoke around the Harbaugh to Miami, the Michigan connection with Stephen Ross, and the timing of the firing in relation to the Harbaugh firing is very, very suspicious. So that is where we are so far. Any thoughts on those jobs in particular? Anything you want to go deeper in? Go ahead.
Well, looking at it, I didn't have Raheem down because I thought that personally he had done enough just getting the Falcons to the point where they were deciding who wins the NFC South, and Kirk Cousins was actually getting that offense back to a more competitive nature, but I guess they were just tired of all the collapses. And it wasn't just Raheem, because it was also the GM and just everybody questioning the Penix Jr. draft. Why would you have Kirk Cousins and you had all that? Because they even tampered. They tampered to get him, so they had to give up a little bit more to get him. And then, what was the one thing when they picked Penix Jr. that the Falcons needed? And it wasn't a cornerback, edge rusher, defense, big time, because you saw they did improve that, and the Falcons were an improved defense this year. They
Most
weren't
sacks
as much.
in franchise history.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, Falcons a little bit more dangerous than just that Penix Jr. pickup. A lot of people questioning him. A lot of people definitely calling him a glass cannon. When you do some deep diving and you find out how many season-ending injuries he's already had in college, coming to the NFL, so yikes! It's just you have to wonder who Matt Ryan is going to bring in and how the Falcons are going to reshape the off because I don't think the offense needs to be reshaped. You have Drake London, dangerous weapon. You have Bijan, has to be a
Yeah.
generational talent.
Kyle Pitt's a
I
free
mean,
agent, but if you bring him back, he showed that he can do something at the end of last year.
and that our defense, and then of course you look to the Raiders. The Raiders' biggest need freaking O line. It doesn't matter who you have behind as a quarterback. If you have Ashton Genty, if you have Brock Bowers, you have some phenoms in there. But if people can't freaking block for him, it doesn't matter a hill of beans or other things. And
Yeah, and I liken Las Vegas a lot to what I said about Miami's future plans that I thought they should go with because with that Tua contract, you are stuck. Go with Quinn Ewers, build around it, and then go get your quarterback. I know Vegas is not going to do that with the number one overall pick. They're going to take Mendoza from Indiana, it looks like. And he's going to get murdered probably behind that offensive line. I think if you get a couple good offensive linemen, you can go back to Aiden O'Connell for a year even. Let Ashton Genty grow. Let Brock Bowers grow. Get a second or third round wide receiver to try and pair up out there with Trey Tucker, who showed a couple flashes. And you can turn this team into a mediocre middle of the pack, maybe lower middle of the pack team very easily. Um, I just think the Raiders made a bad decision bringing in Geno Smith and Pete Carroll, and it set them back at least another couple of years.
did Brady help at all, or is that totally
No,
irrelevant?
but he's the owner. He's not coming in. He's not coaching. He's not going down the field and saying, hey, Gino, how about you try to throw it this way instead of how you're doing it? Because I'm really awesome and you suck." He's not doing that. And he had his broadcast deal.
Yeah.
And he had his broadcast deal with Fox, so he had to spend some time doing things like that. So I don't think he was supposed to come in and be the savior of the Raiders, but his influence didn't help.
Or instead of saying "I'm awesome, you suck," what Brady should say is, "If you want to throw more like me, just look at my most recent girlfriend, and then just go from there."
Or you could have said, "Hey, I'm going to show you how to throw. Hold my 7 rings real quick." And just throw a ball and be like, "Do
have,
that."
you, have you seen Brady's recent girlfriend?
Yeah, I try not to get into the celebrity gossip, but I did
Yeah.
see. And imagine that a billionaire team owner, NFL legend can pull whatever the hell he wants.
Well,
Shocking.
the dumbest headline that I saw was Mark Davis's recent girlfriend. I don't know if you saw this one. That this headline comes under the heading. Do you remember the Airplane movie
Yeah.
when it was flashing BS, unbelievable BS, mutual BS? Her quote was his most recent girlfriend. She said, "I didn't realize he's a billionaire. I just liked his smile," a 26-year-old.
See, here's what's funny about the Raiders ownership box is you have Tom Brady, NFL legend, objectively an attractive guy. He's been on GQ. He can do all this stuff. And he seems not that I'm a fan of his because he tortured my Dolphins for 20 years, but seems like generally an enjoyable enough person to interact with. And then you've got Davis, who is basically a haired ghoul from the Fallout TV show, who just hasn't quite lost his nose yet. And this girl's going to go, I didn't know he's a billionaire. I just like to smile. Bull dinkies, because I can't say the real word I want to say right there. No, you knew. You knew. You don't go for the ghoul with a bowl cut in their 50s because you think that's the look. And then you look next door and go, "Oh, that Tom Brady guy looks like a goober." What? No, don't don't lie. You can just say it. I'm a gold digger and he likes my body, so it works out. You can say that. It's okay. Anyways,
Yeah, I saw that. I saw Brady's girlfriend, and my thought was, he has a type.
yeah, attractive supermodels who don't care if he runs around, does whatever he wants. I get it. If I was in his position, that would be my type too. Fortunately for me, I'm not a multi-billionaire NFL legend that can do whatever I want. I have work. Anyways, the other big jobs I want to talk about are Baltimore and Cleveland, mostly because both of those names, Stefanski and Harbaugh, went pretty much to the top of the hiring list for most teams. I believe the Harbaugh firing is one of the bigger reasons that McDaniel was let go by Miami after the fact, because I remember sending you there were 6 openings at the time that were not Baltimore. So there were 7 total openings.
And
Baltimore
that happened within
and seven
45 minutes of Harbaugh going bye bye.
and 7 calls. It ended up being 9 or 10 by the end of it. I'm sure the Bucks were in there at the end too. But
Well,
there were
yeah,
more calls and openings in
yeah,
Harbaugh.
I saw something from Joe Bucks fan that said that the team Glazer reached out to Harbaugh's people, but for whatever reason they didn't like the response, whatever that means.
So they will both, Stefanski and Harbaugh both get whatever head coaching job they want. That's not the one they were fired from, obviously. But the question is, what do the Browns and the Ravens do to improve on their head coaches? Because again, Harbaugh was there 18 years, won a Super Bowl, had this team perennially in the playoffs. Stefanski had 2 winning seasons, the first Browns playoff win in their, I think, rebirth franchise history, at least since they came back into the league. It was a 2-time coach of the year. So what are those teams doing to improve with what's out there for them to hire?
With the Browns, it's just you. Excuse me. With the Browns, you have just the whole like you have Tua sort of Damocles over your Dolphins. You definitely have Deshaun Watson as a sort of Damocles over the Browns, and until they can somehow dig themselves out or find the solution, whatever that is, however that tends to manifest themselves, they're just going to be in cornerback purgatory because they have a talent like Miles Garrett on defense who got the sack record. Yay! We didn't hear enough about that this week. Got the sack record, so got the sack record and got the sack some money. But until they have some kind of offense, and with the Ravens, the whole thing just seems to be their inability when they get into the crucible of the Final Four to finish. You have an incredible talent like Lamar Jackson. They added Tank Derrick Henry, the King, and now all of a sudden they don't even have a chance at the dance. They're gone because they lost the game. The Steelers, Tyler Loop. Oh yeah. You have to feel sorry for Tyler Loop because I was reading stories. He and his fiance were getting death threats and all sorts of unbelievable craziness. But just the Ravens have to ask, why is it that their team, when they get to that point, all of a sudden, and then whether it's a Mark Andrews not able to catch the ball, granted, there's always the talk that even if he had, the Ravens might not have been able to all of a sudden come back. But if he had caught the ball, makes things easier than just Lamar Jackson in general. And then, of course, all the criticism. You have Derrick Henry in that one game 15 minutes. Why wasn't Derrick Henry used more? You have yourselves a weapon. So the Ravens have to ask, regardless of whoever the new coach is, you have these weapons. Why don't you use them more? And when you do use them, when you get to those situations, why can't they finish the job? Hello? 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 Okay. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Hang on, I'm going to refresh. Hello? 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 Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Hold on. Yeah. There goes the fucking camera again. Okay. Can you hear me?
Hey, Joel.
Oh, okay, I can hear you.
Yeah, I think somehow my mic got
Sorry,
muted.
because the other stupid headphones. Because the other headphones cut out.
I think it was my. I think my mic got muted. Anyway, since nobody heard any of
Okay,
that,
sorry everybody.
no, it wasn't you. It was my end, and we just.
Sorry everybody.
yeah,
Oh, okay. And my mic sounds normal and okay.
yeah, you were fine. I heard everything. Yeah, it's fine. Anyways, for
Oh,
me, Ravens.
anyway, where were we?
Yeah, I was starting talking about the Ravens, and I thought Kingsbury would be a good fit, but I'm not going to go over that again because I think he would. He's just in the area. It's a good offense, but they needed to change. I guess not the right decision, but I think Stefanski for the Browns was the wrong move outright. As far as a Dolphins fan, I'm kind of
Yeah,
hoping we get
because
Stefanski, not just Harbaugh, even though I think Harbaugh is more likely for whatever reason. I just don't see what the Browns have to offer. I know they're interested in Mike McDaniel from the Dolphins. I just don't see what they have to offer and get a great head coach in there to make the situation that much better. I just can't imagine they're going to be really happy with this decision in a couple of years, even if this team starts to go in the right direction with their draft picks and maybe improves in some places. They're going to have some work to do.
okay, because you mentioned that you thought that Stefanski got more out of his players.
Mm-hmm. I think, and the thing is about a head coach is it's not usually the X's and O's that keeps your job around. Just getting the guys to buy into your system, let your coordinators run the game plan a little bit more. But He's got Myles Garrett, who is the NFL single season sack leader now. He had, at one point, Joe Flacco and Amari Cooper lighting up the league and getting them both into the playoffs. And Amari Cooper won people fantasy leagues. Joe Flacco was a good quarterback for a little while.
Yeah, because I'll never forget that. That was with Mike Tomlin and go wondering why he would have had a trade in division.
I mean, he had to play D'Ernest Johnson at running back, and D'Ernest Johnson had really good games. David Njoku had his breakout. You see Harold Fandon now breaking out as well.
Quinshon Judkins.
Jerry Jeudy looked very good after he was cast off by Denver. I think he gets more out of his players, and that's what you want from a head coach, is a guy that takes, that 85 overall kind of talent and brings them to a 90, 95 when you use like a Madden rating scale. Get those guys that are going to overperform because they want to fight for your head coach. I think that's what Stefanski brings to the table. You put a great coordinator on offense and a great coordinator on defense with him. That is a team. That is a coaching staff that can win a Super Bowl, even if you're not going to the best situation.
Okay, so why do you think Todd Bowles was retained? Do you think it was solely because of his case where he made that he thought that 3 division titles was enough to earn him a chance again for this coming season? Is that all there was to it, or is there more?
I wouldn't say for sure Todd Bowles does not still get fired. We do have to keep in mind that teams like Buffalo, teams like Green Bay, that are in the playoffs, but they're usually in the playoffs and maybe not having as good of a season for one reason or another, going to this playoffs. If Green Bay loses to Chicago, especially to Chicago in the playoffs, there might be some uncomfortable conversations about Matt LaFleur's job. I don't necessarily think he gets fired, but it's an option. Same kind of thing with Buffalo, because you've heard from
Oh yeah,
people.
especially because the one thing that I am so absolutely getting flippin' tired of hearing about this year. Josh Allen has a window open
And the
this
thing
year.
is, I know you're tired of hearing it, but when you've been knocked out by Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and Pat Mahomes every year of your career, and then they're just not there, it's not that you have a window, it's that you don't have a clear obstruction. Who
It's
is supposed to beat Buffalo right now? Jacksonville's playing great. They get them in the first round, but if Buffalo beats Jacksonville, no one's going to be surprised. But if Jacksonville beats Buffalo, even though I am certain in my mind Jacksonville wins that game 7 out of 10 times at a minimum right now because they're the better team, I am certain if Jacksonville wins that game, the narrative isn't going to be, oh man, Jacksonville might be a team on the rise. Watch out for Jacksonville. They got a shot to win the Super Bowl. It's going to be, what's wrong with the Bills? Is Sean McDermott's time in Buffalo got to come to an end? Can this team win with Josh Allen? It's going to be all that crazy stuff.
because it's
So don't be
basically
surprised if McDermott ends up getting fired especially if they lose like by 17 to 20 points to the Jaguars, who are one of the best teams in the AFC right now.
yeah, because I know everybody is trying to make the case for Josh Allen just being absolutely superhuman, and there are times that he is,
He
and
is.
there are other times that the Bills are mere mortals.
Yeah, I
And
mean, he can be superhuman, but he's got 21 average guys around him. I mean, James Cook is exceptional, but
Stephon Diggs out of there. He is in New England now, and he was the main secret weapon for Josh Allen when he was in Buffalo.
you're relying on Dawson Knox. You're relying on Khalil Shakir,
You
Keon
ain't
Coleman.
relying on Keon Coleman because he
Like,
keeps getting healthy scratch because he's
yeah,
having discipline
it's
problems.
it's one of those like, okay, we need a big play. Do you go to Dalton Kincaid because he's been
Khalil
good?
Shakir,
Khalil Shakir, Tyrell Shavers. Oh, there's a name you want to go to. But you have those two names, and then of course the perpetual Mike Tomlin. He's only 10-7 this year, one and done in the playoffs. If they lose, is he going to be safe? So you might have 3 more openings come up, and the Bucks might be one of those teams going, if McDermott comes available, I think we will make a change to go hard after him and say, look, we saw what you did with Josh Allen. We think we got better pieces here offensively. Build this up like you did there. So I'm not going to say Todd Bowles is 100% not going to get fired. It looks that way for now, but obviously we know in the NFL
So he's safe
situations can
for
change.
now.
Yes.
Like Mike
More likely than
McDaniel
not,
was safe for then.
that is a very good point because they said after Greer was gone, oh, Tua's probably out the door and we're keeping McDaniel. And then Harbaugh's gone. All of a sudden we go, well, now there's Stefanski and Harbaugh out there. There's two really good coaches. We can get one of those. So let's go get one of those. I could see the Bucks being in a very similar situation where if McDermott, if Tomlin, if LaFleur comes open, I could see the Bucks saying, there's another coach out there that I'd rather have over Todd Bowles. And if the Bucks could get McDermott, the Bucks could get LaFleur, I think they'd be foolish not to.
Yeah, because you saw 5 Bucks coaches, including Josh Grissom, fired, 2 more retired. So that is 7 total slots.
And the thing is, if you're not 100% behind Todd Bowles for the long term, why are you going to let him go fill those spots with guys that are going to come in, try and get established, put Baker in a new system, and then be like, oh, we're getting rid of Todd Bowles. You bring the next head coach, and they go, I don't want any of his guys here. This is the opportunity Tampa should be taking to clean house in full. Go find a new head coach. Take a chance on a coordinator. Take a chance and go hard after Stefanski, Harbaugh. Try and pull one of these coaches I just mentioned in the playoffs away if they get fired, even if they don't. Try and call the team and see if they're willing to make a trade like the I think the Saints did at one point to do Sean Payton. But the Bucks, I don't think Todd Bowles is the right fit for them long term, so I think he should be gone. The Bucks are making a mistake by keeping him if they do end up keeping him for the rest of the offseason.
Yeah, because with the Bucks, it's great. He's back and all that. But if he gets fired after the first 5 or 6 games next season, why did you bother keeping him in the first place?
Yeah, and I think there's an argument to be made about Aaron Glenn with the Jets. Very similar to that Todd Bowles argument you just made. Like, okay, maybe he's not the worst head coach and maybe he needs a little more time. But if you go 1-7 to start next year and you let him go, what was the point of not doing it then? I don't know what the coaching situation is going to look like for available rehires or hires next season. We kind of know what it looks like now. I think a lot of them would be better than Aaron Glenn, but the Jets showing patience. I guess he's got a good Madden rating.
So should we get to the picks before anything else decides to go kaflooey?
Yeah, we're having some tech fun today, so we're going to go to the picks. There's only 6 games this week, so it won't take too long. And we'll start with the 5th seed in the NFC, the Los Angeles Rams, going to the Carolina Panthers, the 4th seed, the champions of the NFC South, at a dominant 8-9 at home against the Rams. Typically, teams that get into the playoffs with a bad record like this put up a good performance. Of course, we have the Beastquake game where Marshawn Lynch and the under 500 Seattle Seahawks beat the Saints. We had the Commanders a few years ago go head-to-head with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, put a little bit of a scare into them, under 500. So I know Carolina is one of the under 500 teams that makes the playoffs of all time. They are arguably the worst team to make this year's playoff pool, almost certainly. However, we have seen games between an under 500 playoff team and a team that's the 5 seed, because that's the only time it can happen, where the 5 seed, the Rams are arguably better than the Seahawks. I'm not saying they are or they're not, but there's an argument to be made. They might be the best team in football. They're going to play the Panthers. It wouldn't shock me if Carolina pulled one out here, is what I'm trying to say, because historically, these games have been a little more uncomfortably close than we would like. And don't forget, the Panthers already beat the Rams this season. So, while the Rams, I'm sure Joel, you've got numbers, you'll give them out here. I'm sure the Rams are a nice 6-7 point favorite.
How about minus 10.5 favorites?
10.5 point road favorites. That's disrespect for Carolina. Maybe deserved. But the Rams being a huge favorite, I don't think necessarily you can write off the Panthers. But Joel, who do you got?
Yep, over and under 45 for this game. Yeah, I know you got a lot of people out there trying to make the case for Carolina. You've got Bryce Young having a good season. You got Chua Hubbard, Rico Dowdle, dangerous in that line. Natora McMillan, just absolutely insane. But yeah, I'm sorry. I know you're looking to Tora McMillan, Xavier Legette. Against who? Yeah, Puka Nakua and a rejuvenated, rested and healed Devontae Flippin Adams. I think the Rams are going to remember that upset loss against Carolina earlier in the season, and they are going to be in redemption. They're going to kick the Carolina Panthers' ass all the way to flipping Jupiter. I'm picking the Rams, and I'm not thinking twice.
I'm taking the Rams as well, but I do think this is a very close game. I think it's going to be uncomfortable. I think, one, you've got a West Coast team coming to the East Coast for an afternoon game on a Saturday. It's an unusual time. I just think Carolina is a good enough team where they can show up and put a scare into the Rams. They can win the game, but I'm not picking it that way. But don't be surprised if this comes down to a late touchdown for the Rams or a late turnover by Carolina to seal the deal in favor of the Rams. I think the Carolina Panthers covered the 10.5-point spread. I think that's a little ridiculous in the playoffs, especially for a team that's already beaten the Rams once. But I'm taking the Rams as well. I do think they're the better team. They'll find a way to get it done. But don't be surprised if this is a little more sweaty for Matthew Stafford and the Rams than they went one. Next up, it's the 7-seeded Green Bay Packers going to Chicago, where the 2-seed NFC North champions reside. Both of these teams' last win came against each other. The Packers beating the Bears in Week 14 have lost the last 4. The Bears beating the Green Bay Packers in Week 16 lost the last 2 of the regular season. But when these two get together, you know it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a hard-fought game. The Bears, they think they've got something special. They think they're moving on. They think they're moving up in the world. They're legitimate Super Bowl contenders. The Packers, they're the big brother of the division. They still have their thumb on the scales with everything. Don't be surprised if Green Bay shows up in a way that Chicago does not like. Chicago almost lost the game 2 weeks ago before a miraculous come from behind with the onside kick and all of that got them to win that game. Green Bay, though, also coming off some resting of the starters. I think they're going to be healthier than we've seen in a little bit of time. Chicago, the 2-seed. New head coach, second-year quarterback that looks like he's on the ascend. Green Bay Packers, a very established team, a little bit beat up, but a very established team that looked like a Super Bowl favorite for a good part of the season. Joel, who do you got?
Yeah, this one, you want to take a guess what the number is?
I would think Chicago by about 4.5.
Green Bay -1.
That is another. That's disrespectful.
Green
They're
Bay,
the 2-seed in the NFC. At least let them be the home favorites.
-1 for Green Bay and over and under of 44. You got a lot of weather concerns for this game. I know generally a whole bunch of people are going to probably be leaning the way of Green Bay, but here's why I'm picking Chicago, and I know. You have the historical fact coming up. Last time Chicago ended up beating Green Bay was right near Pearl Harbor.
In the playoffs.
Yeah, that was a couple of years ago. But here's why I'm picking the Bears this time, this year, this dance, these playoffs. Why? Number one, you got the weather. Weather is that factor that will equalize absolutely everything. Number two, it's in Soldier Fields and they're home. They're ready. Number three, I know you've got Josh Jacobs for Green Bay. Definite dangerous weapon. But you have two dangerous weapons for Chicago, DeAndre Swift and Kyle Mananangi. Manana. Manangai.
Still disappears mid-pick. Yeah, Kyle Managai, very good player. He should be back in a second to do the rest of his pick. If not, I'll get into mine here shortly. He's been doing a lot of research on how our site works and how we do this, and apparently he broke it somehow. All right, since Joel's not back yet, I will just get into my pick. We'll rejoin his already in progress if and when he joins back in. I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers. I just think at the end of the day, this is a huge moment for the city of Chicago, the Chicago Bears organization, a chance to beat down their big brother, the big bully, and Joel is coming back in. So we'll let him finish up so I can do mine in one stretch. So go ahead.
As I was saying, two tanks are definitely better than one. So that's why I'm picking Chicago. And I also don't like how Green Bay was headed going into the playoffs. Don't forget, Green Bay got run over by Derrick Henry on the way home from Christmas Eve. So, yeah, you definitely have all that. And I just think this is the kind of cray year that we've been having, and that Green Bay, as up as they've been, as down as they've been, I've got to pick the Chicago Bears here for the wild card round.
Yeah, I'm taking the Packers. I already said that while you were off, but I'm taking the Packers. I do think the Bears are coming in a little more on. I mean, neither team's coming in great with the multi-game losing streak, but I think the Packers' offense. Jordan Love will be better this week. He's not going to be as beat up as he was. Josh Jacobs should be healthier than he has been in the last few weeks. He's been dealing with a nagging knee injury for a while. Christian Watson has been fantastic. I think the offense overall is good, and I think that defense is better. Chicago has a takeaway machine, so if Green Bay doesn't turn the ball over, they don't have that good of a defense as far as stopping guys outside of the turnovers. Chicago, that is. So I think Green Bay can get it going. I think this is the first playoff game for Caleb Williams, the first head coaching game in the playoffs for Coach Ben Johnson, and I think there's going to be some nerves. Rome Odunze, it's a very young team, and I think they're going to struggle. And Green Bay's experience is going to get them over the top. And if not, I kind of think Matt LaFleur is out of a job by Monday morning. Next up, Buffalo at Jacksonville. The Brills, the perennial.
Shall we go to it?
Yeah, there's still that little bit of a lag between our feeds. Buffalo at Jacksonville. The Bills, a perennial Super Bowl favorite, are the 6th seed going to Duval County to face the Jacksonville Jaguars, the 3 seed and the winner of the AFC South. The Bills, I believe, were, if I heard correctly, a road favorite in this one as well. Disrespect for the home team continues.
Believe it or not, Buffalo is now officially a pick 'em.
Okay, I thought they started as a favorite, but now it's come back to a pick, and people are picking the side of Jacksonville. The Jacksonville Jaguars went into Denver, beat down the Broncos. They've had some very good, gritty, dominant performances of late. The Buffalo Bills have looked Jekyll and Hyde all season long. I mean, they've looked great at moments and looked absolutely lost. Josh Allen still dealing with a little bit of a nagging foot injury we saw in the week 16 and 17 games. Only played the one snap last week to keep his streak alive, so we'll have to see how healthy he is. We talked about the weapons around Buffalo when we were talking about the possibility of Sean McDermott being let go. Jacksonville, pretty complete team, even with a guy like Brian Thomas Jr. really not being on the radar as much as you would expect. So, Joe, who do you got?
Yeah, this one I know you can definitely make things. Just they have more weapons. You have offense, you have defense. Thing is about James Cook, and if they can't get that going, then it's going to be a long day. I think it's going to be just another close game. I think Jacksonville's dangerous. And I just think the window for Josh Allen isn't open anymore. I'm picking the Jaguars.
I am also taking the Jaguars. I think in general they are the better team. Buffalo, they're an absolute run funnel defense. So Travis Etienne and Bashal Tootin should have big games. Trevor Lawrence should be able to get the job done. And like you said, if you have to rely on James Cook, that's fine. But Jacksonville has the number one rated run defense in the NFL, and that's going to hurt, especially when your number one target is a guy like Khalil Shakir. So I think the Jags win this one and win it fairly easily. And we'll see what happens to the Bills after this season, whenever it does end. Next up, San Francisco and Philadelphia. The 7th seed in the NFC goes to the NFC. No, sorry, the 6th seed in the NFC goes to the NFC East champion Philadelphia Eagles, reigning Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. This is a team where the strengths meet and the weaknesses meet because for the Niners, they have a fairly good offense and a really bad defense. For the Eagles, they have a really bad offense and a really good defense. So it's going to be a battle of wills on each side of the ball. I do think it has to be a lower scoring game for the Eagles to win and a higher scoring game for the Niners to win. Eagles, I am sure, are home favorite in this one. Joel, what are the numbers?
The numbers the numbers are as we get to the numbers -6 for Philadelphia favorites over under of once we get to the over and under. Okay, why is it should be merged? Total total would be 44 and a half.
All right, Joel, what's your pick on this one?
This one, I know you can have the folks out there making their case for the 49ers because Kyle Shanahan definitely deserves Coach of the Year with what he has done, even to get the 49ers to get to the playoffs. And I know you have all the criticism about the Eagles and their offense, but Eagles rested most of their key players. Week 18, we saw that. It was a pretty ugly game. Week 18, I think they're rested, and they have enough to get by the 49ers, who every time you turn around, they're losing somebody, somebody is injured. And I just think the Eagles have more enough of an oomph to get over the hump for the wild card. Sorry, Kyle Shanahan. Sorry, Brock Purdy. Sorry, CMC. But I just think the Eagles have more weapons and are healthier than the 49ers. How far did the Eagles get? Not sure, but I think that they can get far enough to get over the injury war known as the San Francisco 49ers.
I'm taking the Eagles as well, mostly because I think they are the healthier team here. I think the defense will stand up and shut down Brock Purdy enough, similar to what the Seattle Seahawks did to them last week. And the offense will get enough done against that really soft defense to win this game fairly comfortably. I'm going to take the Eagles. I don't think the Eagles go deep in the playoffs, but I do think they get out of the first round. And we move on to the Chargers and the Patriots. What's the line here?
Patriots would be a total to the magic spread. That would be -3.5 favorites for the Kings of Foxborough.
Yeah, the Chargers are the 7 seed in the AFC. The Patriots, the 2 seed, by way of winning the AFC, each breaking the Bills' 5-year run at the top of that division. The Patriots are a team I don't know who is believing in them and who is not because you have two camps. You have the, well, they didn't play anybody, and now they're in the playoffs. They're going to have to beat very many good teams to win a Super Bowl. That's not going to happen. And then you have the people that are saying, well, you can only play who's on your schedule. And when you beat the crap out of them like you're supposed to, that implies you're a much better team than that bad team. So, where that reality lies between the two is probably going to determine how deep the Patriots go. If they are a fraudulent 13-4, 2 seed because they've played nothing but the Jets, the Browns, the Bengals, the Cardinals type of teams, the Raiders, even though they lost to the Raiders. You've played a bad schedule and you've gotten fat on the win total because of that. You might get exposed to a team like the Chargers who have pretty good weapons, even though their offensive line is beat up. But when you're pounding on teams like the Giants the way they did and the Jets the way they did, maybe that just means you're a great team that just needs a good challenge. So, Joel, which end of that do you find yourself on?
Yeah, you definitely have the whole argument of who did they play, but whoever they did play, they absolutely beat the living crap out of one of those teams. Was definitely my Bucks. Since
Yeah,
yeah, you take away those two
Miami
Henderson
in Week 18.
touchdowns, and the Bucks won that game. So that definitely tells you how important a solid run game is, and that's the basis that why I'm picking the Patriots here as home favorites and why I think they win. And I know a lot of people will say that the Chargers have had a tougher schedule and had a tougher time of it. Justin Herman's definitely a tougher quarterback going out there with a broken hand, granted non throwing broken hand, but still. once again, like the Bears and the Packers, two are better than one. O'Marion Hampton is dangerous as a weapon himself. Well, when you have those two weapons for New England, you have Drake may not be a deep baller, but he can get the job done, especially with Stephon Diggs, who Josh Allen probably wouldn't mind having on his team this year. And I think New England can do just enough if their defense can get through and pound that very rough, very brittle, very weak O line of the Chargers. And we've seen how often that Justin Herbert can land flat on his back because of the missing presence and the people who are not on that O line. And I just think, I know you have the criticism of the schedule. Who did the Patriots play? But I think that they are the more better complete team. And I know Chargers defense is dangerous. You saw that against the Eagles. But the Patriots are dangerous both offensively and defensively. And I think they can do just enough, especially the fact that they're in Foxborough. If they had to go to LA, might be a little bit of a different story. But I think they can use the cold, they can use the home field advantage, everything in their favor, and I think they can do just enough to eke on by the LA Chargers.
There's a world where the Patriots can get to the Super Bowl and really not have played a great team outside of the AFC Championship game, because the Chargers are the 7th seed. They got in the playoffs. They're the last team to get in. They're a good team. I wouldn't necessarily say they're a Super Bowl favorite, but let's say New England wins that game. Then, depending on the Buffalo Jacksonville game, if Buffalo wins, they will possibly be playing Pittsburgh in round two.
This is going to be
Pittsburgh
an amazing playoffs this year.
Pittsburgh is a team a lot of people don't believe in because they barely got into the playoffs as well as a 10-7 record. And then obviously the
Really?
AFC Championship, you're going to eventually play a Denver, a Jacksonville, a Buffalo once again. But for New England, they could possibly get to the AFC Championship game without having their toughest task, because I think they win this one fairly easily, mostly because the LA Chargers offensive line is just decimated with injuries. I don't think they're going to be able to get Kamani Vidal and Omarion Hampton going on the ground. I don't think they're going to be able to protect Justin Herbert, if man, because if he could win a playoff game, he'd be a great quarterback, is why that is in place, by the way. And I just think the Patriots are too good, even though they face a tough or a soft schedule. I think they're too good to lose to a very badly injured LA Chargers squad. And we move on to the final game of the weekend. It's the 5 seed in the AFC, the Houston Texans, going to Pittsburgh to face the AFC North champion Steelers, the 4 seed, on Monday Night Football, where the Steelers haven't lost a home game on Monday Night Football in 33 years. It's a 23 or 24 game win streak. So a lot on the line with the Pittsburgh Steelers in terms of history. We'll have to see if holy water is in effect. But Joel, what's the line in this one? Because I think Houston would be a slight favorite in this one.
Houston -3, Ryan.
Yeah, slight favorite there. For Houston, that defense is absolutely elite. It's arguably the best overall defense in the NFL. You gotta get Nico Collins and Woody Marks going if you want this offense to be balanced. Stroud needs to show up and show he can be the franchise quarterback for Pittsburgh. The defense has to show up. They've been hit or miss. They've been better the second half of the season, but they are still liable for a stinker. You have to get Warren. You have to get Gainwell going. Getting DK Metcalf back is going to be nice for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But it's going to come down to, is Aaron Rodgers going to look his age, or is he going to look like vintage Rodgers like he did in the fourth quarter against Baltimore last week? So, Joel, big game for both teams. Obviously, it's a playoff game. Could be the last game for both Rodgers' career and Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh if they lose. But home team hasn't lost in 33 years on Monday night, getting a Monday night home playoff game. And the holy water, again, that end zone, I don't know how long. I don't know what the statute of limitations on holy water is. Is that going to last for the rest of the playoffs, or is it just this week, or is it just last week? I don't know. But who do you got?
Well, with an over and under of 38, you know it's going to be definitely a defensive minded type game, especially
Weather a
with the weather,
factor
especially being
possibly as
outdoor
well.
and
Yeah.
packed short. Yeah, so you just have to sort of keep that in mind. And for this game, I know you can have a lot of the folks wanting to maybe have both end zones be doused, I guess, in holy water before the game. Better safe than sorry. But for this game, I think the key thing to look at is not the defenses, although that's a definite thing. Pittsburgh defense up and down, you never know which way it's going to show up. Houston's defense has always just been switched on the whole flipping season. But I think the key thing to look at here is the main man at wide receiver. Nico Collins rested in week
Yep.
18, ready and raring to go. He's going to be the main focus of CJ Stroud all night long. Then you look on the other side of the ball. Aaron Rodgers. Who's going to be his main focus? DK Metcalf coming back after 2 weeks from being suspended because he was a knucklehead, ended up getting into hitting a fan in the stands. A definite big no no that the NFL does not want its players doing. He didn't care. He did it anyway. Even had the fan trying to have a quote unquote press conference that turned into an absolute cluster. But yeah, DK, little bit on the rusty side, and he probably has been a little bit distracted by everything going on outside of football. Nico Collins rested, focused on winning a wild card game. DK definitely is a focused on winning a wild card game, but rusty. 2 weeks not having played. So yeah, I think the advantage there has to go to the Houston Texans and to CJ Stroud and to Nico flippin' Collins. And I think just that little factor is going to be what wins the game as Houston's defense is going to be able to get to Aaron Rodgers. And I think Pittsburgh's going to be able to get their looks in there too because their defense has definitely proven to me lethal when they are switched on. This Gesundheit, and it's definitely a game that they're going to be switched on. But yeah, I've got to pick Houston. I know you've got the history. I know you've got the Tomlin winning on Monday Night Mojo. But what has Pittsburgh historically done in the playoffs? Get to the playoffs, get the season, as Tree would say, BS football, one and done. And then I think Tomlin somehow done with Pittsburgh, whether it's mutually parting ways or whatever. I just can't see the numbers adding up here for Pittsburgh. I've got to pick the Houston Texans to win. Final game of wild card weekend, Brian.
Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head with the wide receivers because you saw last week Zay Flowers and Donatez Walker get behind the defense a few times for long touchdowns. And frankly, Jaden Higgins and Nico Collins are better wide receivers. The defense that they're going up against in Houston is a much better unit. We saw Houston go deep against the Chargers a few times. This is a better defense than Pittsburgh has. So I think Pittsburgh gets the job done. I'm a little concerned about the religious holy water aspect of the thing. Maybe the Texans try something not unconstitutional, but unconventional, and bring in somebody who is supposed to negate that kind of energy. I don't recommend bringing in a Satanist just because I feel like that brings in some different things. But maybe you bring in a holy person from a different religion or
Heyo.
something to try and clear out get the sage stick and clear out the chakras and all that stuff or whatever you want to call it, and just make it
Maybe, maybe,
a fair fight.
maybe Satanist needs to go with the Raiders. Would that help?
Oh, they're already in hell. They don't need anybody that's going to enjoy that kind of thing. All right, that's our picks. The only one we differ on is Green Bay and Chicago. So we'll have to see how it goes, and we'll be back for recaps in week 2, the divisional round of the playoffs. But let's go to final thoughts with Joel.
And my final thoughts. Final thoughts, definitely. Just very quick before anything else happens. Yay! Final thoughts are just how about got to give a shout out to Tampa Bay Lightning. It's that time of year when all of a sudden you start paying attention to everything else outside of the
Woo!
world of fantasy football. 8 win streak currently ongoing, including an incredible win against the freaking Colorado Avalanche when it was in the second period. You kind of had a feeling this one might go overtime. Nah, nah, nah. Lightning slammed the door in the third period, and they got the job done, including one of the game. I think one of the wins was over your Sharks.
Yeah, a pretty convincing one. A 7-3 win, even though Reganta, I think is his name, got his first career hat trick for the Sharks in that game.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, the Lightning win 8-game winning streak. So yeah, kind of nice. You're not sure what is in store with the Rays this year. Who the heck knows? They didn't even make the playoffs. Looks
Returning to
like,
Tropicana Field is a positive though.
but it looks like we might have a hockey team in Tampa this year. Booyah! And that's my final thought.
Yeah, Tampa Bay right now with a couple games in hand over the rest of the division mates and only 1 point back. The Sharks you had mentioned, even though they got slapped around by your Lightning, are
They the Sharks didn't get slapped around as badly as the Devils did against the Islanders. Boy,
we didn't have a goalie hide down the tunnel because he didn't want to come into the game after the other guy was going to get pulled. But the Sharks, they're a team on the rise, and they are 3 points out of first place in the division. A division that's got Edmonton, the back-to-back Western Conference champions, and the Golden Knights that have been there for a while. So the Sharks, Macklin Celebrini, if you haven't watched him, you should. This isn't necessarily my final thought. But if you haven't watched Macklin Celebrini play hockey yet, you're missing out. He is. I'm not going to say he is the next coming of like a McDavid or a Crosby, but he is doing things that a kid his age has not done since Gretzky and Lemieux. So he's definitely been very impressive. He continues to grow. He might be better than McDavid and some of the greats in the last couple of generations of hockey. My actual final thought is going to be one more time, remind everybody, if you can't control yourself on the internet, don't send messages to athletes. Tyler Loop, you missed a kick. That sucks. I'm sorry. You don't deserve to have your fiance getting death threats and all this other craziness. If you can't handle the internet, put it down. If you can't handle yourself, put yourself in timeout. I know that's not how our society works anymore, and social media is something that the human brain is not good at controlling. But again, if you can't control yourself, it's a 21, 22-year-old kid who missed kicking a ball through two lines in the air. You'll be okay. Everybody out there, you will be okay. If you are a Baltimore Ravens fan, the sun will come up tomorrow, and Tyler Lewis will be your kicker. It just drives me nuts.
yeah, because it's absolutely crazy. I mean, it's like the whole, Barstool CEO
Oh, I hate that.
calling for Pete Carroll to be offed. I'm trying not to say the actual
Dave
verbiage.
Portnoy wanted him executed. I'm going to say it because that.
That's,
Go ahead. If you see this and want to sue us, go ahead. You
that's
said
just,
it.
you don't understand
Scumbag.
how people can be out there and social media, the internet. It's meant for to yak about sports, or if you want to yak about politics, you can do that in a civil. I know that's
That's
probably
not possible.
I know that's probably an oxymoron, civilly talking about politics.
See, the problem with social media is that at first it's like, oh, look, we can keep connected with people we don't necessarily see all the time and share pictures and stories. And then they started putting like pages where you can like and follow all the stuff. So we got to put our little territorial things out there in the world, whether it's, hey, I'm a Sharks fan, you're a Lightning fan. Oh, hey, you're a Sharks fan, I'm a Kings fan. I don't like you. Or your political views are now out there. Your and like you can put yourself in these little boxes where it's us versus them on social media because the human brain is not adapted to technology in that way. And now we're just toxic a-holes that are screaming at kids for kicking a ball through a target. And I'm not even bringing up the politics thing because it's 100 times worse.
Yeah, because when you see people go into it, okay, discourse is one thing, but when you just see, the toxic nature, the vitriol, just all of a sudden, people ending friendships, and it's just you're wondering, okay, how long was that friendship there? And then you see a post, and you're just like, oh my god, and it just gets you right here because I know the passion that people have for sports, and probably 500,000% more for politics. I would say, especially good God these days. I mean, you're just
Yeah,
polarizing whether you're on one side or on the other. It's just there has to be a way that you can control, because it's like something I was thinking about, because I know, for example, with the AI, I'm learning how much that AI can actually you know be of benefit to you, but at the same time with AI, the number one thing is, I think, as cool as it is, you've got to use this more. As
yeah,
cool as AI is, it's neat, it's cool, it's fun, but then you read articles about, and I'm going, I can't believe somebody did this, because there was one AI thing out there where people were actually using the AI and pictures of women, and they were using the AI to remove the clothes, and I'm going, are you
yeah. I heard
kidding
about
me?
that.
That
I heard about that, and I heard that in regards to the person who was just shot in Minneapolis having that done to him, because now we can just mix degeneracy and politics and all of the AI. It's a problem. I know we could talk a lot more about this,
Yeah,
but
it could be a whole podcast just in of itself, because it's AI is fun, and if you use it right, it can enhance. But I know you also have people who consider it AI slop, because I know that's a phrase that I've heard of, where just people are just like turning out
yeah,
so much of it, boom, boom, and boom, and boom. And I even saw one article that there was some author or book that somehow won a major award, that it had to be taken away because it was AI. It's just,
not getting better.
and then you have like all the deep fake stuff, which is really scary. Where you have, I mean, it's kind of funny when you see a Mike McDaniel AI video, and you kind of chortle and you kind of laugh, but you realize just some of the uh, divisive
Yeah,
kind of stuff that can be done, and you're just like, because it's sort of like parts of the internet are cool and fun, and then all of a sudden you see, like, other posts or other parts, and you're like, I don't think I'm going to go there, because all of a sudden you're just like, holy.
yeah.
And as I'm sure there's some stuff that you've seen. All of a sudden, you're just like, do, 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 and it's all of a sudden, it's like the hitting into a metaphorical brick wall. You just smash, and you're like, what?
So yeah, my final thought: get better with technology, people. Stop being scumbags.
Yeah, it's,
I know
it's
you
just
won't, but I'm with you.
technology can be used for fun. There's fun things you can do with it. There's stuff you should also not do with it.
Anyways, with that inspirational final thought segment, I am Flying Rhino and Gokers along with
Tampa Motormouth, Joel Verlin.
back next week to recap wildcard weekends, talk about the divisional round and the approaching end of the NFL season. We'll see if there's any coaching news to talk about, whether it's hirings or possibly more firings. And yeah, we'll
Who
get
won
through the rest of the
the
season.
eventual John Harbaugh lottery?
Yeah. And with that, we gone. Or we were AI the whole time.